I love it when technology doesn't work, and you guys are a technology company, right? Well, look, it's great. It is great to be here. I'm so glad that Ash could have asked me to be here this morning. And how are we this morning? I mean, it's not a rhetorical question; it's a real question. How's everyone feeling? All right? Because I know you guys kind of went out last night. Is that right? I did see a little bit of the footage, so good luck. Pretty sad. I was thinking about coming here today, and I thought, what direction would we take? And I want to take you on a bit of a different direction to perhaps what you've kind of done over the last day or so. And when I was kind of pondering that on the way here yesterday, I kind of thought to myself, it's funny, back at about this time, back in 2012, I found myself in the middle of the Daintree rainforest. Has anybody ever been to the Daintree? Yeah, it's a beautiful place, right? So green, lush, beautiful place, but there's not much that happens there. It's like full of wildlife and that kind of thing. And the reason I found myself there is because I found myself on this trail here. This is called the Bicentennial National Trail of Australia. Has anybody ever heard of that? One person, here we go. It's two people, there you go. It's a 5,330 kilometre trail, spans the length of the Great Dividing Range. It starts up in, it starts down, I should say, in Healesville in Victoria. Who's from Victoria here? Yeah, same place I'm from too, in Melbourne. And finishes up in Cooktown in far north Queensland. Who's been up that way? That is a strange place, you reckon? It's like the Star Wars bar up there, isn't it? It's a really crazy kind of place. I spent the best part of 5 months running a marathon a day to complete this trail. But at this stage, I find myself in the middle of the Daintree River, right in amongst the bush. And I've been out there for probably about two weeks. Hadn't met my team for 2 weeks. Because they can only ever meet me where the trail intercepts the road. And I was pretty excited this particular morning because, well, for two reasons, I guess. The first one is because I was actually going to be meeting my team that day for the first time in 2 weeks, having a conversation and meeting some people. I'm not sure if you've ever been alone for a long period of time. Anyone ever been alone? Like the yoga retreats and stuff where you don't speak to people. It's kind of like that, but I was running a marathon every single day. So the first thing was I was excited about meeting the team. The second thing was that I realized that at this stage I'd kind of ran 5,000 kilometers and I was sitting on this giant opportunity of becoming the first and only person to run this trail and in the fastest time possible. We're about 500 kilometers left to go. Pretty pumped. Really excited about speaking to some people. I hadn't spoken to anybody until I find myself saying these few words. Now you laugh, thinking, why the funny voice? Because it's pretty hard to talk when you've got a mouthful of double-barrel shotgun. On the other end of that shotgun, he called himself a farmer. So let's call him a very angry farmer. And I'll never forget the next few words that he decided to yell at me. I'm going to blow your brains out. Now tell me, what do you do in a moment like that? Apart from shit yourself, what do you do in a moment like that? What do you say? What's your next move in that kind of moment? Well, I can tell you my next move, but for that to happen, we really need to, I guess, reverse engineer the whole story so you understand how I got here today without a big hole in my head. Now, look, I also realize that, the chance of you guys ever coming face to face with a shotgun is probably next to zero. So saying that, I was doing a workshop recently, and this guy came up to me and he said, "Richard, clearly, you've never sat in my end-of-year review." I was like, Jesus, what sort of boss have you got? Ironically, I was working for a life insurance company. It's crazy. So look, I understand you're not going to come face to face with a shotgun. And look, I'm going to tell you a few things today that you're going to go, look, this doesn't really make sense to me. This is not what we do in practice. This is not about the products and the services that we sell here or provide here. But I want you to understand that if you could really tap into my mindset, into stepping into and through those kinds of extremes, then I think I can help you perhaps step into the extremes of the modern sales environment. Right? Because it's fair to say, isn't it, that the modern sales environment is really, really tough. I mean, we live in a world of rapid change, ridiculous amounts of change. It's full of complexity. It's full of challenges. I mean, you don't know if you're coming or going. I think that our weekends are now blended with the week. I think there's no line anymore between sort of our personal lives and our business lives. Is that fair to say? Just give me a nod here. I want to make sure I'm on the same page. Yeah. So, you know, it's tough, right? And if you've got a family, I mean, Jesus, how hard is that? Who here has children? Right, take a look around the room without the people who don't have the hands up. Look how happy they are. Yeah, cool. So, so we're in this world of rapid change, ridiculous, right? And I think that makes it really, really not just hard in everyday life, but it really, I think, at times can slow down our progress. I think it can delay our decision-making abilities. And I think at worst, it puts a pause on execution. And clearly that's not what we want, is it, in the sales environment? We don't want to pause on execution. I mean, that's tough. So look, I think how we decide to navigate those kinds of extremes really is going to determine if we're going to be in a state of demise, if we're going to do what most people do in this environment, which is just survive and have a head above water. But really where we want to be is we want to be able to thrive in this new chaos. It is now the new normal in business today. Now, the question is then, how do we do that? Well, look, much of that challenge is actually biological. Meaning that, look, if you think about it, our brains are like 10 million years of evolution, right, to get to this point. Now it's bombarded with a whole bunch of rapid change and challenges that it's never seen before. So it just goes into a survival mode. And then that survival mode comes with a series of traps. Traps that are blocking us from our true potential. Now look, I don't make this stuff up. I spent the last 7 years really analysing my adventures with a whole bunch of psychological experts, from sports psychologists, hypnotherapists, science. I've been in the lab with scientists as a lab rat, really having everything prodded and poked and tested just to try and figure this thing out. I mean, I even did this thing called past life regression therapy. Has anybody ever heard of that before? One or two people. For those of you who don't know then, it's apparently, well, not apparently, it's where you get hypnotized and you go back into the life before the life you had today. Apparently I was a horse. There's a joke in that somewhere, you know. Get your mind out the gut of you know. So look, I took a 360 approach, right? I really wanted to take this 360 approach of how and understand how I've done this. And I guess to bring it down to one word to make it easy, my adventures and my success in my adventures have been about change. The ability to change to new circumstances, new events, new environments. But here's the thing. As much as I go around and I speak to different organisations about change and how they change their organisations for the future, I actually don't want to talk to you guys about change today. Because I figure that every single person in this room already knows how to change. You might say, well, how do you know that? Because you're here. Think about that. Those people that couldn't change aren't. Meaning that those people have left your organisation to go on to similar organisations or have left the industry entirely, just couldn't keep up with the rate of change that was required from this organisation or from the industry. So I don't think there's any advantage in speaking about change. I think where the competitive advantage lies is in changing faster. I mean, it's faster than Cisco, faster than Microsoft, faster than the emerging new businesses that are coming up, faster than your clients, faster than your customers, faster than your workload, faster than the marketplace. And changing faster really comes down to one word: adaptability. Adaptability is the only competitive advantage left in business today. Would you agree? Yes or no? I'm going to make sure we're on the same page here before I keep sort of dropping ideas onto you. Only competitive advantage left in business today. It really determines who wins and who loses. And you don't have to look very far to see that that's true. I mean, if we go right back into the past, you can see that evolution tells us it's been about adaptability. I mean, Charles Darwin himself said it's not the strongest or the most intelligent of the species that will survive, the one that's most adaptable to change. And that brings us right up to the modern day. Some of the biggest brands of our era, some global brands that we've all grown up with in this room, don't exist anymore. Fell off the face of the planet. Gone. 100-plus-year-old companies gone. Why? Because they couldn't adapt. They couldn't keep up with the rate of change. They couldn't deal with the challenge. So therefore, look, it's certainly going to be true, isn't it, for our success moving forward in this industry. So today I want to talk to you about adaptability. I think that's the key. And I want to show you how to adapt by helping you understand the traps that you get into that's blocking your true potential. And then I'm going to help you, or give you the ability with, I guess, the tools and the strategies that I've learned in the science lab, with the psychologists, in my research, and of course running thousands of kilometers over the world's most hostile environments. Now it's going to sort of open up a new way for you guys to realize your true potential and jump on this massive opportunity that you have ahead of you. Does that sound cool to you? There's only one kicker though. Because I'm here as the motivational guy, because we've got to get this thing kicked off, because we've got some hangovers in the room, we can learn about adaptability in one of two ways. The first one is we can delve into the research and the data and the statistics and the graphs and the spreadsheets, and that's all right. But if you want, we can learn about crossing a crocodile-infested river, perhaps nearly dying of a foot infection, or even have a missile thrown overhead in the Middle East. So, by show of hands, who's into the boring old data?
Nigel.
We call this person in Australia a wanker. And who's up for missiles and shotguns and stuff? Yeah, cool, all right, awesome. Well, that being the case, and look, I'm definitely in the right spot. But I am a bit concerned because you've chosen this path of me nearly losing my life. So it says a lot about you guys in the room. Okay, well, let's get into it. I want to take you to the first idea this morning, and that is to anticipate. If we stand any chance of growing this business, driving sales, leading ourselves, our teams, into the future, then it pays, doesn't it, to know what's coming. Does it not? Yes or no? Doesn't it, right? It pays to know what's coming. I was in the middle of a mountain range in New Zealand. Anyone from New Zealand here? Yeah, a few people in the room. Who's been to New Zealand? And I guess the rest of you have heard of New Zealand, right? This mountain range in New Zealand. So it was because I was running this trail here. This trail is called the Te Ararua Trail of New Zealand. It's a 3,054 kilometre trail, on average around about 65 k's a day to complete this trail. I think I'm the first and the fastest at the time. Since then I've been beaten. But the people who have been to New Zealand, and the people obviously live there, and people have seen it on television, New Zealand's everything you think it is, right? Beautiful big mountains, snow-capped mountains, rugged landscape. I mean, that makes a journey like this really, really difficult for me. Technically, this is probably the hottest trail out of all the kind of 5 records that I've made, the hardest by far. I mean, climbing over glaciers, a volcano erupted while I was there, whitewater rapids, have been washed down waterfalls. I mean, the list goes on in this place. Again, snow-capped mountains, which means then you're in avalanche zones most of the time, which is pretty kind of scary stuff. Obviously, bush and thick scrub to try and make your way through. Just boggy when it rains, just hard going. But one of my favourite things about New Zealand is ice cream. Who's an ice cream fan? Yeah, everybody, right? Who doesn't like ice cream? Like, wrong device for that, wasn't it? Ice cream, love ice cream. And every time I got to a town or through some sort of town, I'd always go and eat ice cream that they have at the dairy there, or the milk bar, so we could call it here. And that always brings up the question, Richard, what do you eat on these massive, massive journeys? Well, that's really, really simple. Anything I like, I'm running 3,000 kilometers, right? People hate that. Anything I like, which makes it so much fun. This particular mountain range I was about to head into is about halfway along the journey. It's very south of the North Island. And I was met there by Parks New Zealand. They call it DOC there, Department of Conservation. So DOC came to meet me and they said, Richard, look, we understand that you're about to head out into this mountain range. It takes most experienced hikers just over a week. You're planning to do it in 2 days, which is phenomenal. But we've just got some words of advice for you. This particular range is renowned for taking the most experienced mountaineers' lives. And just 2 weeks ago, we found 2 mountain guides perished in these mountains. So we just want to make sure that you're on your A game. So I revised the plan, checked it with them, make sure I knew what I was doing. And the next day, with those very inspiring thoughts that I might lose my life, I headed off into these mountains. Well, it's fair to say by day 2, Parks weren't wrong. That night in the tent was horrific. I thought it was going to blow away. Tent pegs were flying out of the tent while I was in it. The rain was horrific. It was waterlogged inside the tent. There was lightning strikes all throughout the night. I mean, I was terrified that night. I didn't sleep a wink. The next morning, when I finally got the courage to unzip the tent and peek outside, I was met with this thick fog where I couldn't see a foot in front of me. And that's pretty crappy because it's kind of on my top priority of things, be able to see where I'm going when I'm running at high altitude. So I got up, I tried to pack the tent up without it blowing away. At this point, I'm soaked to the bone, absolutely sodden. Has anyone ever been really, really wet? Do you know, like every layer's wet? Like you feel like the inside of you is wet, like it's got through your skin. And I was like that. It was freezing cold, and there was sleet coming down sideways. And I packed my stuff up, and I headed off for this final day. And the first part of the day, I was basically just following the GPS line on my device because I couldn't see where I was going. Being met head on with this sleet and this cold and freezing. And I was just trying to keep moving to try and keep warm. Second part of the day, I realized that I'd be going up and over the highest part of the mountain range, which I knew was going to be a massive challenge, right? I mean, the weather was horrific and next to zero visibility. That makes it pretty scary. Either way, I went up this side of this mountain. It looks a little bit like this. As you can see there, you can't see much. So I'm on this ridge line now going up this mountain. You might be able to faintly hear the lightning strikes in the background. And as I'm making my way along this ridge line at high altitude, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Perhaps Parks New Zealand are right. Perhaps Doc's right. I think today is the day. Do you think? Today's the day that I might lose my life. This is what I kind of was thinking. Well, maybe I should just turn around and go back, right? This is ridiculous. The weather's not very good and I can't see. No, I'll keep going. Or should I keep going? Actually, this is pretty scary. No, I'll rephrase that. This is terrifying now. Really, really scary. And I kept going, and I kept going, and I kept walking along. And I'm thinking, now I'm really doubting myself. Should I be here? I mean, I'm not an adventurer, really. I mean, I'm not really a mountaineer. Do I go? Do I stay? And as quick as those thoughts ran through my mind, this happened. Tumble, 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 tumble. I was flat on my back. And then, nothing. Didn't feel cold. Didn't feel wet. Didn't feel scared. Nothing. Kind of half expected this giant hand to come out of the clouds and say, welcome. Ah! And as I lay there for what could have been, I don't know, 2 minutes or 2 hours, I really have no idea. I finally started to sort of wriggle my fingers and my toes and come back to life. And I went to get up, and I couldn't. What happened was that my backpack was wedged between these 2 rocks. So now I started to tug myself free, like really trying to tug myself free. And as I'm doing that, now I realize that my legs are swinging from underneath me. I'm on the edge of a cliff face. Edge of a cliff face, staring into the big grey abyss. I mean, it turns out that Parks New Zealand weren't wrong, were they? They weren't just trying to make my adventure a little bit more interesting. So I had to sort of unravel myself and get free, and I started climbing back up this quite steep face of the mountain. It probably took me an hour or so. I don't really remember. I was there for a long, long time. When I finally got up to the top and down the opposite side where the weather was fine, I looked back on the data and realized I tumbled 80 plus meters down this mountainside. 80 plus meters. That's to nearly fall to my death, to be saved by 2 rocks. The question I have for you this morning is, what happened? This is the interactive part. What happened? What do you think happened? That maybe saved me. What do you think happened? What made me tumble off the mountain?
Fear.
Fear's a good one, definitely. Fear, negativity, what else? Come on, guys, wakey, let's go.
Yep.
Doubt, what else? Sleep, was that too? Stupidity, definitely, yeah. Anything else?
Got complacent.
Got complacent. It's a whole bunch of stuff, isn't it? It's funny, isn't it, how all those things, you don't need to be on top of a mountain in the middle of nowhere for that to happen. This is, it's too late now. We've moved on. You're right, though. You're right, okay? I can sum it up. I can sum the whole thing up in 3 words. Really, really simple. Me, myself, and I. Me, myself, and I. That's just enough at times, isn't it, to make things really, really complicated. Not the lightning strikes, not the fog, not the sleet, not the weather, not the marketplace, not the customers, not the complexities of our jobs. See, what I find really amazing is that when we get caught up in our own thoughts like that, is that it really takes away the ability for us to just carry out the fundamentals of our work. And that was literally for me putting one foot in front of the other. Gone. Ever felt like that? You're doing something, you get caught up in, you're scared about something, you worry about something, you doubt something, you spend so much time just... It's tough. So I think when the conditions become uncertain like that, when the circumstances change, when the situation becomes complex, you just need a mindset that isn't. And that seems really easy when you just put it out as a big statement like that. But of course, to have a mindset that's so robust in those kind of situations so you can seamlessly move through, safely move through, and take advantage of the opportunity and the chaos, I mean, that takes a plan in itself, doesn't it? I find it really interesting, you know, as I say, I speak to organisations all across the globe. And it doesn't matter what industry I speak to. It doesn't matter the market segment or the position within a company. All that doesn't matter. What I find amazing is that we plan for everything. All those different organisations, people plan for everything. Like you guys have sales plans, right? Yes, no, hope so. Yeah, sales plans. Of course, Trend Micro has a whole bunch of plans, you know, marketing plans, finance plans. I mean, the list goes on in business. And we go home, and some of us have exercise plans, and we have picking kids up from school plans, and we're all making weekend plans, and we're definitely making holiday plans. Yet we fail to plan for the one thing that will always undo a well-tailored strategy, which is ourselves. Ourselves. And that word there, ourselves, that is the insight. Because unfortunately, in times of change and chaos and challenge, most of us just go on a nosedive into negativity, and it undoes everything. So we've got to plan for ourselves. It's actually easier said than done.
But sometimes when you're in a situation like that, you know, when your life is at danger, you find out some strengths about yourself that you didn't know you had.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Surviving.
We've got to anticipate what's going to happen. We all know, we don't need to predict the future, right? The mistake people make is that we go, oh, how do we predict the future? What's coming? It doesn't matter what's coming. What you've got to prepare for is your response to the future challenges. Does that make sense? You with me on that? You know what that is. So my question to you guys is a really simple one. What challenges do you see for yourself in the future? Will. Sorry, mate, I remembered your name, that's why I picked you out. Just give me a 10-second burst of thought on what personal challenges you see within yourself moving into the future.
Learning all the products. I'm about 8 weeks into the company, so just learning all our products that I guess.
Yeah. I'm thinking more personal challenges. What do you see yourself? How about yourself? I mean, it's a challenge in that jacket, I know, but
Personal challenges, I suppose, in the future, providing for my kids and family.
okay.
Yeah, I don't have kids and family. It's just,
Right, okay. So basically you lied. Okay. How about yourself? When you think about the internal future challenges for yourself, what do you think? This afternoon, the next day?
Oh, okay. I think about family stuff all the time, actually.
Okay, so family's pretty important to most people in this room.
Yeah, for sure. And the challenges that I'm going to face with them going forward.
Let me just rephrase this, right? We're talking about ourselves, right? We've just had a discussion about the internal challenges, the doubts, the fears, the overwhelm. We've all just listed them out. This is what I'm looking for. Think about that. What are your internal challenges? So fit, healthy, motivational, right? Is motivation a big key in this industry? Do you have it all of the time? There you go, there's your answer. So motivation's one. Inspiration, is that one? Staying passionate about the job, avoiding your fears, avoiding procrastination, overwhelm. I mean, these are all things that happen to us every single day. This is not just business here, this is life for most of us. This is a life strategy for most of us. Every day when I wake up in a tent, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. And in fact, you guys could probably tell me exactly what I'd be feeling first thing in the morning. Over this, sore, tired, what am I doing? This is ridiculous. I'm hungry, I'm not eating properly, I'm thirsty, maybe just quit it today. I don't want to do this. Ouch, ooh, ah. And I know that's going to come. And then when I've packed everything up and I think about the day ahead and I think, wow, I've only ran 500 kilometers, I've got another 5,000 to go. I'm pretty damn overwhelmed. So I'm going to let you into a little strategy here. Very simple strategy. I call it the 4 Ds. No, it's not a bra size. This is design the future. The first one is decide, determine, dwell, and design, which is the idea we're talking about now. Second is decide. What is the future objective? What are you trying to achieve for the day, the week, the month? What's that one thing you're looking to achieve? First of all, you've got to decide on that. Determine the obstacles, the internal obstacles. What will prevent me from doing that today? What will prevent me from executing the best day I can possibly have? There's a bunch of stuff there. In science, they call this mental contrasting. It's about you go from where you are to where you want to be, and you actually look at the obstacles in the middle, or in this case, you look at the outcome as well. And then you dwell on the future obstacles. Does that make sense? So the first one is to decide what the goal is. Makes sense. Second one is determine the future outcome. Oh, this would be great if I achieve this today. If I closed X amount of clients this week, if I made this amount of money in the week, whatever the case may be. And then you dwell on the internal obstacles. And that can sound counterintuitive, right? To go, oh my God, yeah, today I'm probably going to have some motivation at some stage, and I've got that client that I really hate going to, and actually they freak me out, and I get a bit nervous before I go, I get a bit anxious. Dwelling on the obstacles is the important part. But I'll be the first to admit, this is where it can all come undone, right? Because you might go, well, if you dwell on it too much, you might not go ahead and do it. True that, but it also outlines if you should go and pursue it or not. Again, we look at psychology. Dwelling on your future obstacles is what they call implementation intentions. Or quite simply put, and write this down, which means you pick your pen up, if then. If then plan. That's what it is. If this happens, then I'm going to do this about it. It's that simple. That black and white. If then. So powerful. Massive amounts of research done on this. Really helps you seamlessly move through things you otherwise wouldn't move through. So I'll give you an example of that. As I said, I go up in the tent each morning. I know what my day looks like. I need to run 85 Ks today, for example. That would be awesome if I did that today. That would get me ahead in the game. I'd run all the stuff. Yep, I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to feel like I don't want to do this. I want to give up. I'll forget this. Feel sore and be overwhelmed with what the future holds. Then the if-then plan, when we design the future for me, is that all I'm going to do is put my shoes on. So when I feel all this anxiety, all this fear, all this, oh my God, I don't want to do this, all this overwhelm, all I commit to is put on my shoes on. If these things come up, put shoes on. And that itself has made me run thousands and thousands of kilometers day to day, back after back. Day after day, back to back. That one if-then plan. So simple. Because the hardest thing for me to do is actually put my shoes on. Because that signifies the start of the day for me. What we're doing here is we're automating the actions required. I don't rely on my determination. I don't rely on my willpower. I don't rely on my motivation that day. I don't rely on my passion for that day. I don't rely on my courage. I want to take all the thinking out. Actions drive out thought. That's one to write down if you're taking notes. Actions drive out thoughts. The whole idea of this for me is, well, I don't want to get caught up in that mindset that, oh, I don't want to do this. Because we know when you get stuck in that mindset, it all comes undone from there. This is not about positive thinking. Research tells us that if you get up in the morning, you think, just be positive today, Jim, just be positive. By the middle of the day, if you're still using that strategy, you feel worse about yourself than you did when you started. You've got to think about the challenges ahead. And you know what they are. It's that easy. All right, let's move on because we've got to move ahead. Actuate. You know, the reason I think I put everything on autopilot, the reason I like to automate my days out on the trail is because, well, I'm going to let you into a giant secret here. And I don't want it to leave this room because it will ruin my running career. I actually do not like running that much. Not really. Not to go and run thousands of kilometers across some of the world's most hostile environments. Not at all. Now you're thinking, why then? What's going on here? What's all this about? I'm a big believer that goals don't drive us. They only guide us. Does that make sense? Well, we set these goals for ourselves. For me, running 5,000 kilometers. For you, to achieve X, Y, Z. But that's only the goalpost. That's not what really drives you to achieve the things you want to achieve. And I think often we get caught up in this mindset of thinking that it's all about the goals, not really understanding what's behind that. And the insight into that is actually quite deep. So if you want to ask me why I ran this trail, then it's way more compelling, way more profound than me just trying to reach the end of a trail in some country somewhere. I ran a trail called Israel's National Trail. Anyone ever been to Israel? Well, isn't it just a beautiful place? It's amazing food. Who likes hummus? Oh, best hummus in the world in Israel. You've got to go a long way for it, but it's good. Oh, really? There you go. It's part of your house tonight. Israel National Trail. So we went from south to north on this one. This is a 1,009 kilometer trail. As you can imagine, it's a desert for the best part, at least the southern part. So it's hot, it's arid. Who's been to a desert before? Anyone ever been to a desert? Yeah, you know how hot it is? I mean, even been to the outback, or even if you've been to the beach. You know, if you get rid of the ocean and all the amenities, then you get a good idea of what the desert might be like. It's hot, it's arid. In Israel, the complications were things like hyenas and scorpions, snakes, of course, dehydration, a little bit of upset. Might have been a few sort of gunshots and stuff happening around. I had this ambition of running this 1,009 kilometre trail in 12 days. I know, it's crazy, right? When I look back at that myself, I go, 12 days? That's just ridiculous. But it had complications from the start. Day one, this is the terrain, by the way. Day one, I came back after day one and I had this foot infection. My foot had swollen up twice of its size. And my team said at the end of day one, Richard, look, perhaps we should go and get this looked at. Maybe we should go to hospital and just get it checked out. And I said, no, it's day one over. You came here to do this project and that's what we're going to do. Day two, head back out there. Been warned about these sandstorms. Saw on the horizon this giant ball of sand coming towards me. And as it got closer, what I realized was it was a tank. I got chased by a tank for 500 meters. Found out I was in the middle of a training zone or something. Kind of went off the path a little bit. Day three, now my foot's bigger, and I'm pushing down the backs of my shoes, so almost like I'm wearing Crocs. I'm not sure what was worse, having a foot infection or looking like I was wearing Crocs. And the going was slow. And then all of a sudden, I'm walking along, well, this is the foot. Nice before lunch. It got worse from here, actually, towards the back end. The sole of my foot started to hang off. Pretty, yeah, nasty, right? Pretty bad. So I got a foot infection. I've been chased by a tank. Now, all of a sudden on this day, I've got missiles flying overhead. Boom, like that. And I look just like you did then. Like, totally, what the heck is going on here? Missiles overhead, what? For some reason felt the right thing would be just to carry on. Fourth day, out there, really hobbling now, foot's really bad. And I ran out of water. And I ran out of water for many hours, and it got worse. I felt my eyeball starting to shrivel up, and I started to get this really bad dry mouth. My lips were sticking to everything. And I just then started to couldn't really see where I was going, and I wasn't sure which direction I needed to be. And all I could think about was water, give me some water. And then I found this little dribble of kind of brown liquid coming out of the desert floor. Yeah, just, I mean, it tastes as bad as it looked. But you know when you're dehydrated like that, you will drink anything. You know, you will drink murky water that you wouldn't wash your dirty undies in. You would drink your own wee. You'd even drink 4X, gold, whatever. Right? You go to those extremes. Day 5, things get really nasty. This foot is bad now. Like, I'm not making the distance at all. And I had to go and camp out the night in this thing they called a muktesh. And basically a muktesh is a giant crater. It's about 20 kilometers by 20 kilometers in radius. It's massive. And my day would finish up in the middle of this muktesh. And I set up the tent. I went to sleep that night. And my foot's just throbbing. I'm dehydrated. I've got all this stuff going on. I'm like, God, this is insane. Next morning, I wake up. And to my surprise, I thought, is that a dog over there? Oh, no. I've had a pack of hyenas all licking their lips at you. I'm thinking to myself, maybe they just want this sole on my foot right now. It's just like, I'm food. So I pack up and I keep moving. And I get out of this muktesh and I don't see them again. By this stage now, I'm going into the city of Tel Aviv. And so my team are kind of on and off with me throughout the day, and they could see that I was struggling, and all of a sudden it just, boom, gone. The foot just could not hold me up any longer. Bang, collapsed in a big mess on the floor. Couldn't even get up. Just completely gone. So they threw me in the four-wheel drive, zoomed me off to the emergency department in Jerusalem. I remember lying in that hospital bed with this giant foot just up on the counter, and this doctor came in with this giant syringe that looked like something out of the Looney Tunes comic, just about to jab this foot and drain it. And he said to me, this Israeli guy said, "Oh, my friend, you know, why did you, well, I say is Israeli, he was well-traveled. He said to me, my friend, why did you leave it so late?" Yeah, I said, "Don't know." He goes, "This is almost amputation. Like, this is nearly gone. You're lucky you came in when you did. Why did you do that to yourself?" You know, I pondered on that question for years. Why would I do that to myself? And I said, this research that I've done, it actually started off with me trying to figure out why I've done what I've done. I spent 12 months sitting down with all sorts of mind experts trying to figure out why I'd done what I'd done. And what happened was I became really depressed in my search. And the conclusion from all the experts was, sometimes it's just because, Richard. Well, I ran all that way just because. I wasn't content with that, just because. You think I ran thousands of kilometers, nearly killed myself numerous times, just because. It wasn't long after that when I actually wrote an article for National Geographic Australia. And the editor said to me, Richard, can you explore the question, why do adventurous people do what they do? I said, I'm kind of the worst person to ask, so I've got no idea. So I went out and interviewed a whole bunch of adventurers, current day adventurers. I looked through all the media material from the past, trying to figure out if there's anything in there that some great explorer back in the day or current day adventurer might have said as to why they adventure. And what I found was that no one actually had an answer. Some of the most famous quotes are not even an answer. Because it's there. It's just because, isn't it? To knock the bastard off. It's another one. It's like, really? No one can actually say why. And what you understand is that they can't say why because they just can't articulate it. Like me, you can't articulate the reason why you do it. And what it comes down to, I think we need to reframe the question of why to need. Not why do you want to achieve something, why do you need to achieve something? Because that's a massively different word. If you look at the word need, it means a sense of urgency on it, there's commitment on that. It means all the things you need to sort of foster success. What I found out is that it's something I needed to do. And we've all felt this way at some stage or another. And the easiest way I can sum this up is to say, think of someone that you perhaps love, right? Parent, sibling, partner, pet, whatever. Can you sum up in one sentence why you love that person? Yes, no? Legitimately, could you give me one sentence why you love that person? No. Why? Just because. Just because you do. And I think if we have any chance of really progressing forward and really reaching our true potential and really grabbing this opportunity by the... I think we need to figure out why we need to do what we do. I want to do a very simple activity with you. Grab a piece of paper, everybody. And I want you to get into pairs, so turn to the person next to you. I know what you're thinking. If I knew it was going to be interactive, I wouldn't have sat next to this idiot. All right, so this is the exercise, right? With your partner. Everyone got a partner? Yeah, good stuff. With your partner, we're going to play the 5-year-old game. So those people, the kids in the room, will know this more than ever. What do 5-year-olds do when they ask you a question, you give them the answer? Why, right? And then what do they do? Why? Go to your room, right? This is the game we're going to play. We're going to ask each other why. So we're going to take it in turns. We're going to give you just 2 minutes to do this. The first person might say what your goal is, what you're trying to achieve today, tomorrow, for the week, for the year, it doesn't matter, personally or professionally. And you're going to say, why is that important? Why is that important to you? Why do you want to do that? Why that? It always comes with the why. Do at least 10, and then swap over. And what I want you to come down to is one word. I want you to sum this whole thing up in one word. And on that sheet of paper that you've got there, I want you to write that word in big letters, and I'm going to use that later. All righty? So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. Everybody clear on that? Yeah. All right, starting now.
Yes, it is. The question is the answer. For today? With a look.
Okay, if you haven't already, let's swap partners. All right, you should both have some words, a big word on your piece of paper now. If you don't, just make something up. So across your piece of paper, big letters, the one word you've come down to. Okay, let's wrap it up. All right, guys, what did you come up with? Okay, all righty. So now you should have a word on your paper. If you've got that word on your paper, I want you to hold it up for me. Oh, you see, I told you. See, yeah, okay. All right, let's have a look around here. Satisfaction. What's your word there? Worry. What's your word? I can't see it from here. What's the word you came up with? Existentialism. Oh. Get out. No. Purpose. Nice one. Anybody else want to share? A couple more? Throwback? Success. You didn't write something down, did you? Motivation. All right, the idea there is, and this is something I suggest you do outside of a work environment, because it's hard to be honest, isn't it, with your colleagues and stuff. I suggest you do this exercise, this simple why questioning, maybe with a loved one, with a good friend, even someone you can probably trust within the organisation, someone you feel very comfortable with. I think you ask enough whys like that, and this is when the why is important. You keep asking whys and whys and whys and whys, and you get to something where you start to feel that, and it kind of is uncomfortable, and you ask a few more whys. I mean, we do this activity with people, and look, some people cry. I mean, it's real estate agents are crying. And I mean, it's something. If you can bring it down to one word, that really is what you're chasing. Does that make sense? I mean, that one thing, I mean, that's a lot, that sums up everything about you. Really, that's something that you value the most. Now, we all have a set of values, and you've probably got, let's say, top 5, but this is the one you're definitely chasing regards to the goal that you set for yourself here. That one thing, that's something you need to do. That's a big switch in wanting to do something, needing to do something. I work with a room of some of the top real estate agents in Asia, guys making millions and millions of dollars a year. And you ask those guys what they want and very quickly give you an answer. Say, oh, do you know what my goal this year is? Security. What about X amount of $1 million? Security. See, that's something to jump out of bed for, isn't it? And be honest here, who jumps out of bed in the morning? Not many people. Let's put this a different way. Who rolls out of bed? Who falls out of bed? And that makes the rest of you still in bed. So that makes this really, really important, doesn't it? So this guy's chasing security. Another guy says freedom. Mine's freedom. Not the big dollars, not the budget, not whatever materialistic kind of goals, but I'm chasing security. And if he says that to somebody, then it's kind of hard to figure out, oh, you're chasing security, not quite sure what that means, but now you know how the exercise kind of works, you kind of figure out, yeah, I kind of get that. If you're interested, by the way, mine's, well, I've got a few, but mine is uniqueness. And that can look kind of interesting. That can look kind of interesting because you can go, well, yeah, of course, yeah, you've done some pretty unique stuff. Uniqueness gives me everything I want in my life. From being very, well, I've asked myself the questions too why. See, when we ask the question why, you better be prepared for the answer, because it's not always a positive one. Sometimes it can be a negative one. People always ask me why, but really my why doesn't help you guys out. And whys, as we know, lead to more whys. We've just done the exercise with 5-year-olds. You just got to find out what it is that you're about. Call that a purpose. Call it what you like. It's something that you value the most. The thing is, we will only ever commit to the things that we care the most about. What do you think is the number one thing that we care about the most as human beings? Ourselves, right? It's when we come full circle. I said at the start, ourselves is the insight here. So if we only care about ourselves, then the goals have to be about ourselves, the thing that we care about the most. Does that make sense? So when I've put myself through some incredible kind of situations and sort of, I guess, almost kind of face death in some regards, to me, when you need something that bad, it is a matter of life and death. Now, bearing in mind that my story is an extreme one, but you take that into a business environment, pretty powerful. Did you note in the story that my team only ever asked me to stop once at the very, very start? And when I went back and said to them after the trip, why did you only ask me once to stop? Like, do you care about me? They said, because you said we'd got this and we believed you. Do you know those people that walk into a room and they just light it up? They don't say a word and they light it up? I mean, equally we know people that light up the room and they walk out as well, right? But you know those people that walk in the room and you just go, I don't know what it is, but this person has something. It's influence. When you're chasing whatever that thing is for you like that, you ooze just go get, passion, all the things that you think of when you think of success, you just ooze. And it gives you a tremendous amount of influence over people. I'd influenced my team without even realizing it. We just believed you. After I left the hospital, the sponsor I had there got me in touch with the country's sort of best sports doctor. And I sat down with him and he said, well, what are you trying to achieve? And I told him. He goes, well, okay, here's his prescription. Take that to the pharmacy downstairs and look, you might need a day off, which I took, and should hopefully get you through the next sort of 5 days. I went down to the pharmacy and gave her the prescription. The lady said to me, she goes, really? I said, yeah. She goes, this is mega dose. I said, oh, well, the doctor upstairs gave it to me. Really? I can't authorize this. So she calls him up, having a conversation. Okay. Gives me these bottles. I swear to God, I looked on it and it had like a picture of an farm animal on the side of the bottle. So I took those to the hotel room and took all those things, and lucky for me, made the extra 5 days and finished the trip in 13 days and not 12. I know. It's kind of shocked. I went back to the doctor and asked him the same question. Why did you kind of risk your career giving me an illegal kind of amount of drugs? So that's easy. I wanted you to achieve the trial. I believed in what you were doing. So when you're chasing this thing, as much as it's about ourselves, it's not a selfish thing. You light up the room, you'll influence your customers, your partners, the people in this room. It has a tremendous amount of power. Just because you're chasing the one thing you really want. It will make you do things you never thought were even possible to do. Like it takes you to a whole another level where you've got to get your focus right. It can't all be about external goals. You have to, I mean, it's important, but this is way more important. When you figure that need out, you become like a junkie. You just need to do stuff right. You still off your own family to get a hit. I mean, I'm not saying you still off your own family, but that's the kind of state I want you to be in. That's massive, massive success to influence people. All right, we're going to move along. We've got to progress. Time's getting on. All right, we're going to move into perspective. Makes sense? What's perspective mean? at the big picture, look at things from different angles, that kind of thing. I think it's really, really important in any environment, I think particularly in your environment. You've got to take a stand back sometimes and look at it from different kind of views, different angles. I was, after I'd made it through the rainforest with my friend with the, I thought that might have been one of the hardest things I'd have to ever overcome, was the guy with the shotgun. Until I find myself standing on the banks of the Daintree River. What's the Daintree famous for? Oh, it's crocodiles, right? Big, ugly green dinosaurs with sharp teeth. So I now find myself on the banks of the Daintree River, and I thought to myself, you know what? I thought there might have been a bridge, maybe a boat, maybe something, but no, there was just this four-wheel drive track that dipped in one side of the river and popped out 100 metres to the opposite side of the river. Shit. This is going to be tough. My team drove down the track, and they said, oh, yeah, that looks like it's going to be a challenge. Now, normally at these crossings, you see things like this. You have these kind of causeways to get across, but this didn't have that. It was just water, like you see there. More murky and more brown than that. So I said to my team, look, I'm not doing this today. This is ridiculous. I'm not doing this today. Let's go. Let's just pack up, drive up the half an hour up to the Daintree village. Who's been to the Daintree village up there in the Daintree? Anybody? It's where you kind of do tours and stuff from, and yeah, beautiful. And then I was going to sleep on it the night and try to figure out how I was going to get across this river. Then I probably made the worst mistakes of the day. I thought it'd be fun if we all went on a crocodile cruise. So we took this tour down the river, looking at all these different crocodiles. And it was just crazy. I think, man, I'm coming face to face with these things that are perhaps going to eat me tomorrow. You know, it's just ridiculous. And so I'm getting more and more scared at this stage. This is stupid. This is really, really stupid. The trip came to an end, and all the tourists got off, and I sat at the back of the boat, and the tour guide must have saw the sort of look on my face. He said, is everything all right, mate? I said, not really, pal. I'm crossing the Daintree tomorrow. He goes, oh yeah, the ferry's just down here. I said, no, on foot. Mate, I'd never tell anyone to cross a crocodile-infested river on foot. Whereabouts? I said, oh, up at this crossing. He goes, oh, okay, yeah. And he said to me something that is so Australian. He said, look, I wouldn't recommend it, but she'll be right, mate. So, pal, I don't want she'll be right, I want to be right. That's what this is. So, of course, I didn't sleep that night, right? I lay awake all night, contemplating this crossing. This is ridiculous. Now, look, I could have hired a boat, but the whole point of crossing these trails on foot is that you have to do it on foot, man-powered, foot-powered. You can't be cheating, taking planes and buses and stuff, right? Now, I could, no one would have known, but I didn't want to do it that way. Next day, I found myself on the banks again of the Daintree, and I felt more terrified than ever before. I mean, think about it, right? I mean, would you cross a crocodile-infested river?
Yeah,
no, exactly, right? Would you cross a crocodile-infested river? No. What about yourself? No? Ridiculous, right? So you can see my kind of apprehension here. Like, it's a stupid thing to do. So I was there for an hour, so I hadn't crossed. Team's waiting for me to go across. Another hour. 2 hours down the banks of the river, trying to figure out what I'm going to do here. 2.5 hours pass. It's just getting worse. And I hear these two trial kind of motorbikes coming down the track behind me, and I thought, awesome. Maybe they'll give me some motivation, a pep talk, a bit of something to get me across this river. What happened is they drove straight past me and straight through the river, and it was only an inch deep. What a inch deep. Now, I just couldn't see the bottom because it was just brown and murky. And I later realised that part of the crossing, actually, it does go up and down throughout the day with the tides and different things. But that's where everybody crosses because it's deep. You would see a crocodile. I mean, it's crocodiles in it, but you'd like to think you'd see one. So I'll ask you again, would you cross a crocodile-infested river? Yeah, maybe now, yeah. Like I said, maybe.
Maybe today.
Would you now? Maybe, no, you don't snitch. Yeah, right. But why now and not before?
Because now we more confident. It's like,
Yeah, perspective now.
yeah.
Perspective is what we talk about. Yeah. Do you know why, don't you? We didn't cross it before because we were uncertain. We think it's fear, but fear is never the problem. Uncertainty is the problem. have the if-then plan for uncertainty, different outcome every single time. Again, we're talking about the extremes here. So the first thing is that, just uncertainty. Next thing is, someone's mentioned before, we've got to have perspective on it, right? You've got to look at it with a fresh pair of eyes. You can't keep looking at the same problem in the same way. I wondered if I'd ever crossed that river if the motorbike hadn't come down. I don't know if I would have done. I think I would have been terrified. So we've got to gain different angles, different perspectives. And the best way to do that was with all the people in this room. Like from all the trips that I've done and all the great things I've done, I've not done it without a team of people. Is that fair to say? Would you agree with that? There's not one person on planet Earth, that has done anything on their own. Even Jesus Christ didn't do it alone. So it's important we have a good team of people around us. I think there's a great team in this room that can give you ideas and perspectives on stuff. I have a bigger team of people than even they probably realize. I think that it's important to have not just a team of people in your work environment and not just obviously family and friends who support you, but I think it needs to go bigger than wider than that. I think what it comes down to is collaborating, having a collaborative team of people. I'm going to show what I do. You might want to draw this out. Everybody see this? Is you down here working in isolation for the best part, for most of it? Is that fair to say? I mean, my adventures are, there's a big team behind me, but I'm the one at the cold face. I'm the one that's having to do all the hard yards and overcome all of the challenges. So I'm down here in isolation. Well, I asked myself, who is on my team? Well, there's my immediate team who support me out on the trail. It can consist of 2-3 people. There's someone who kind of drives the truck, there's someone who works after navigation, sometimes there's a cameraman, that kind of thing. And I think to myself, they're on my team. And I'm kind of responsible to achieve what I want to achieve with these guys too. Next people up, there might be my family and my friends. Put them on there. Said I was going to go and achieve this thing. They're kind of on my side. Next one, sponsors. I get sponsored and funded for these things. I put sponsors on my list. In fact, let's put funding as a separate thing, because it is a separate thing. I do it for charity too, so I put my charity on there too. Then I think to myself, wow, now I'm doing it for charity, which means then there's this whole community of children that I'm supporting, whole community on my back now. And then at the end, I've got a whole online community that's following me. Now there's more than that. The interesting thing about this is a whole team of people. But at the same time, look at the amount of pressure that's on me to make sure I achieve what I set out to do. This kind of model makes you massively accountable and massively responsible. Just this tremendous amount of weight on this little me at the bottom. I've got all this on my back. When it comes to doing stuff, I question. It's like, no, you can't question that. You're responsible. You're accountable to too many people. There's too many people on your team that you're accountable for. Now, I know by some of the looks in your faces, you're thinking, Richard, I don't want any more pressure than I currently have. Right? Or you guys are already under a massive amount of pressure. Well, I asked you, what happens if you take this same model and all we do, have the same people and we flip it around like this? Same people. You're on this massive mountain of people who support you. People that want you to achieve what you want to achieve. They help you validate ideas. They keep you engaged. It's kind of a yin-yang kind of model. This is the model I use. It's about pushing a team of people that can push you when you can't push yourself. Because you might have the big reason, the big purpose, the big going out there, and you might have all the little strategies in place, but there's still at times where you... And I think it's important to load it up like that, because in times of like the foot infection, I'll give for an example, is that these people on my team are very quick to say, maybe you should go to hospital. Maybe you shouldn't do this. Friends and family the same, maybe you shouldn't do this. People on the outer extremes, sponsors and funders go, I thought you might think that you might have a blister along the way, Richard. So it just keeps you accountable all the time. There's a massive amount of pressure to just keep pushing forward and striving, progressing through the complications, which is the future, but at the same time knowing you've got all these people on your back. Just give me some quick examples of people you could potentially add to a list, just in this room. Anybody want to kick it off? What's at the bottom? Colleagues? Managers? Come on, guys, interactive part.
Family.
Family? What else? Customers? Massively accountable to customers. What else? Shareholders. What else? Partners. Is it business partners or your partner? Personal partner? But actually both. What else?
The community in general.
The community. That's a great one. What else? Come on, it's not rocket science. You know this stuff. What else? Is anyone part of a football team, a church, a community group outside of work? I mean, that's something else you can add onto that. There's a bunch of people you can add. I implore you to go out and create a list of yourself, because you realize, wow, actually this has a big, what I'm doing right here, little me in isolation, has a massive effect on this massive association. We're moving here from isolation to an association of people. You quickly realize, like, wow, I have to go out and do what I'm supposed to do because I've got all these people on my back. I want to share with you a little story. It's not always about the big things, like meaning that it's not always about your list being full of people that are like my team here, or the group of people, the organisation, my management, and the community, which is a great one, the customer. It's not always about those things. Sometimes it's about some of the smaller things. I got invited to schools along the Great Dividing Range on that trip. And when I'm talking schools that have 2 students. Like, to me, if you've got 2 students, apparently it's a school in the outback. And some of the schools say, oh, come along as you're passing, come in, talk to the kids. You know, like, I was going in talking about some of the animals I've met along the way and just fun, stupid things. And this one school up in northern New South Wales here said, look, we're going to have wear red to school day. All the kids are going to wear red, and they're going to pay $2 to wear red, and we'll give that to your charity when you come and speak to us. Lovely, fantastic. So I rock up to this school, and all the kids look like Santa's little helpers. It's kind of cute. And I did my presentation, just spoke about, you know, some of the animals I've met, kangaroos and that kind of stuff. It mentioned like the wild dogs I've chased by, and the wild boars, and the guy with the shotgun and all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the presentation, I needed to get back on the trail because, you know, I'm trying to set a world record here. I've got no time to be really talking to kids, but I did. And so I said, where's the principal? And I said, I don't know. I said, oh, can you say thank you to her? I've got to go. And as I left, this young kid came up to me, little boy came up to me and he goes, hello, sir. There you go. That's for you. And he gave me an envelope. It's like, oh, thanks, mate. And he just ran off. So I was like, oh, there's the money for the school stuff, right? So I put it in my pocket. And went out into the car park, and a lady approached me. And she says, oh, Richard, did you get your envelope? I said, yes, I did, thank you. Can you thank the principal for me? Because I've got to go and I can't find her anyway. She goes, this envelope? I said, yeah, this one. She goes, did that little boy over there give you that envelope? I said, yeah. She goes, oh, that's not from the school. That's from my son, Jack. He saw what you were doing online months ago. He's been following you across Facebook, and he said, Mum, what can I do to help Richard? And in this envelope here was 3 months of car washing and pocket money. And that still puts the hairs on the back of my neck up today. Now, Jack's probably 21 now, getting drunk, getting laid. But in my own mind, Jack's still this little boy. And Jack goes straight onto this list here. Things get all too difficult and too hard. I go, man, a 7-year-old boy saved up for 3 months his pocket money and his stuff. So it hasn't always got to be about the obvious things. You've got to think outside the box a little bit here. The bigger the team, the better. The more pressure, the better. The more support you have, the more validation. This model alone made me go to Sumatra and decide to run around an active volcano. I knew it was exploding. The government evacuated 80,000 people from the surrounding area, and I went there purposely to go and run it, based on this model here. Because I asked my wider community, is it a good idea or a bad idea? Partner, she said, bad idea. Sponsors, it's not a bad idea. In between, here I go. And once I made the decision, now I was massively accountable and responsible to go and get a job done, regardless of what happened, regardless of the rocks that fell out of the sky. See, all these little ideas today, I mean, it's pretty simple stuff. It's not rocket science. But we started with ourselves, and the whole story is about ourselves. How do we move ourselves into the future? I mean, this is, if you want to know how a guy ran from one end of a country to the other, the hard way, I mean, this is it. Sorry to disappoint you, but this is kind of it. It's just, and as for the shotgun guy, well, as you know, I woke up that morning and I was excited for the day ahead. I was pumped. I was sitting on the biggest opportunity of a lifetime. This is the first trial I ran. 500 k's to go from almost a 5,500 kilometre journey. This has got some good potential. This is good. This is going to rock my world. And speak to people. This is going to be exciting. I get to speak to my team today. It's been almost 2 weeks and not spoke to anybody. As I went up this sort of hillside, I did see that there was a bit of a shack, a lean-to, smoke billowing out of the top. I was like, awesome. Somebody lives out here. Or is that awesome? Doomsday prepper, murderer, no farmer. And I headed towards this lean-to, little humpy thing, kind of excited. Until this ugly-looking pig dog just came running out of me, bolted at me, big scar on its face, frothing at the mouth, pulled off my backpack and finding this pig hunting dog off. It's ripping my backpack to pieces. And I see a guy in the distance chopping up some wood with an axe. I said, hey, help, help. And he's like, oh yeah. He dropped his axe and he picked something else up. And he came bolting towards me. And the first thing he said was, Fluffy, be quiet. Oh, man, who calls a dog like that Fluffy? Really? Fluffy sits down, quiet. And he says, who are you? So I'm Richard Bowles. Who are you? Who are you and what are you doing on my property? I said, oh, sorry, I didn't know I was on your property. I'm running the Great Dividing Range of Australia. I started down in Hillsville and now I'm up in far north Queensland. And I'm thinking, this sounds, he was going to believe me. He said, no, I asked you who you are and what are you doing here? I said, I told you. I've got running shorts on, I'm Richard Bowles. And he obviously didn't like that. He shoved this shotgun at the side of my face. He says, who are you and what are you doing here? I said, doing it for charity. Would you like to donate? Clearly not, because that's when you ram that gun in my mouth. Who are you and what are you doing here? My name's Richard Bowles. I'm running the Great Divider of Australia. I'm going to blow you up. What's the next move? I said, hey man, I like your lean-to. Is that an orchard you got behind there? That's kind of nice. Pulls that gun out of my mouth. He says, do you know what, pal? I've been growing those mandarins for ages. Would you like to try one? So absolutely, let's do it. So he goes off and he gets these mandarins and he comes back and he's peeling them and he's telling me how juicy they are and how delicious they are and how the sun's blessed them this year and they're the most ripe they've ever been. Like this, just like it's boring me to tears, to be honest with you. And meanwhile, I'm giving all my segments down to Fluffy, thinking this is probably poisoned or something. And he puts his arm around me and he goes, anyway, pal, I can tell you exactly where to go. You go past my little place here, my shack, jump over the fence there, and you'll be on your way. That's where the trail goes. You'll meet your team down there. It's like, awesome, man. So glad I bumped into you. This is great. So I head over, past his place, start to climb over the fence, and he yells out, anyway, it's not me you need to be scared of. It's my neighbour. Oh, Jesus Christ. So I tiptoe the whole 25 kilometres to get to my team for that day. You know, I relayed that story back into some of the research I was doing. I unpacked all of my sort of challenges and every kind of part of my journey, really, just analyze stuff. And, you know, what the psychologist kind of said, or the psychiatrist said was, you know, do you know what amazed me about when you relayed that story, Richard, to me just then? Is that not one moment did it seem like scary or strange or weird? You kind of joked your way through it. You know, it was almost like you took a walk down to Coles to go and pick up a chicken. Like, it just makes no sense. So we kind of, you know, cut into that and analysed that. And what we worked out was that, or what happened was that, I had an if-then plan. I knew complications were coming. Can't predict a guy with a shotgun. Can't write that on my plan. But I know at some stage I'm going to be scared. I know at some stage I'm going to lack confidence. At some stage I'm going to be overwhelmed, have anxiety, self-doubt. I know that stuff's coming. So I prepared if-then plans in place of that. I knew exactly what I wanted to achieve. I had a massive team of people behind me. And the good thing is when you've got all that happening, you can then draw perspective on something. I felt like I was almost like I had a helicopter bird's eye view on the situation. I think when you can prepare for all these things you know that are coming, that gives you a massive amount of clarity. With clarity comes confidence. With confidence comes courage. I did. It doesn't make me a superhero, but I remember that vividly being just another obstacle to get over. So it's not about trying to figure out the answers to the big challenges in your industry and the big stuff. It's about sorting out all the little internal obstacles, and they stack up over time, which in turn prepares you for anything big that comes along. Does that make sense? When we're going into, this next 12 months, who knows what's going to happen? This is like, you guys are fortunate in some ways because you've got a massive opportunity to take here. And you really need to take it because there's a recession coming. You know, not everything's bulletproof, unfortunately. It's going to get harder. We're going to have to do more with less in the future. We know that. You've got to have a rock solid mindset if you want to step into this stuff. And I don't know if you've heard anything new today or for the first time or it's old news to you, but like, I just hope that you at least think about it. I hope it's been enough just to stir the pot, just to help you think about how we navigate the future. Would you promise me that? You just at least think about it? Would you promise me that? Because if you don't do that, do you know what? I ran all that way for no reason. Thanks for your time today.